This is my very special friend, Henia Bryer, who I had the great fortune of meeting in 1993, when we were preparing for the Anne Frank exhibition in Bloemfontein. And that's where I first came across Henia, and love at first sight.
And this is my fortune that I met you.
And I was telling Les that when we were looking for a survivor to speak at that special opening of the Anne Frank exhibition in Johannesburg in front of Nelson Mandela, it was the opening. I said to the organizers in Johannesburg, I know you've got survivors in Johannesburg, but if you will take my advice, you will invite Henia Bryer from Bloemfontein to be the survivor who will speak at this occasion.
And you know who was the first person to come and hug me?
Was Nelson? Yeah.
Nelson Mandela.
Really? Wow.
Yes, yeah. It was
And
very
the second one was the lady, his friend. She was very involved in the politics.
Oh, no, Helen Sussman. Yes, Helen
Oh.
Sussman. Yes, that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
So-
Yeah. Okay, so that's the introduction.
Gee,
Okay.
Laura, thank you so much, and thank you so much for today.
Yeah. Right. So tell us about that.
Well, this is my credentials. This is the call-up card to the army in 1948, the original.
When did you come to Israel? It was
46.
Palestine.
After the war, but we couldn't come before that.
It was illegal to come.
Well, the English wouldn't let us in.
And where did you come from? From where were you?
From France. I was staying with my uncle in France from the end of the war.
From where were you? Where were you liberated?
In Bergen-Belsen, unfortunately.
Yeah. And your mum?
My mother was saved by the Russians. They liberated Auschwitz in January 1945. And I went from, well, let me show you the documents here and tell you what they are, and then I'll tell you where I was, and you won't believe me. There were no documents, official documents, that anybody would come to Israel. You couldn't. And he managed to get us in 46, but these are Aliyah Bet. Travel documents, there were no passport yet, because there was no Israel yet.
That was your uncle?
He was in the Histadrut and he was in the Mapai party, so he somehow managed to fix us these documents, and that's the one that...
And this is you?
That's me.
And how old were you in this picture?
At this stage, I don't know, I was nearly 14, and when the war broke out, 13 and a half, nearly 14.
So you were about 18 then?
Something like that.
And it's a beautiful picture.
Well, it's not the best picture, but... Oh, I've got pictures from the wedding for you to see.
I will look at it just now.
And Henia, can I ask, where were you born?
In Radom, Poland.
And do you remember the date?
And the day, the 10th of December. Here, all the details.
All the details are here. It's amazing. Wow. It's incredible that you've kept it so well through all the years.
All the years, well. And these are I managed to become a teacher here in South Africa, and these are my reports that you've got to see. You saw them.
Yeah. Amazing.
No, I must. This is the one from the Board of Deputy of Jewish Education in Johannesburg. I must brag a little bit. My son says, "You're bragging again."
You've got to brag about, so
So I
it's
said,
okay.
if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Exactly.
Because he's not even want to look at these things. You're bragging again.
It's so important, Henia.
Yeah. And yeah. Right.
You don't.
Oh, so it was Rabbi Mezebo. I remember Rabbi Mezebo.
You knew this.
Sure, and I know his
It
son.
was the Dr. Rabbi.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And this is the other one.
Which one is that
And
from?
I was there for 42 years
Gee.
in Bloemfontein.
Yes. Yeah. I remember we were having lunch or coffee at Ruteber, and
Yes.
somebody came to say hello to you who had been in Bloemfontein and you'd been his teacher. Was
Oh,
it?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, I
lots
think the director of the
Museum.
museum. That's right. Yes.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. How many hundreds of? I mean, it was a small community, but
But we had plenty of it. It wasn't. It was a proper school, every single day, from Monday to Friday.
back in the afternoon.
In the afternoon,
wasn't
from
just
2 o'clock to 6, 7 sometimes.
And did the students come every day, or was it
Every day.
Right, it's amazing.
And you taught Jewish studies.
I was a Hebrew teacher. Siddur, which I didn't know at all, but I had 2 marvelous rabbis to instruct me, and I did it through correspondence, and we used to go to Johannesburg to all the meetings of the teachers, and I managed to qualify with such a lovely report.
Yes, despite their misgivings,
Despite.
they had to give you a good report.
I didn't ask them, and they used to come every 3 months and used to see what's going on. And they used to employ teachers from Israel who couldn't have a clue how to teach children who didn't speak Hebrew.
And you also were with people who were Geiring.
Yes,
Children.
that's privately, because they wouldn't allow me in the... I was under the Rabbanut in the Jewish education. They wouldn't allow me. But I converted about five girls through the reform. I wasn't allowed to do it through the, through the religious...
Bryer, can I ask you, out of all the survivors for that very important exhibition that international exhibition on Anne Frank, so you asked for Henia to come.
Well, to the
Yeah, I
Johannesburg opening, yes.
And
Yes.
that's because there were quite a few survivors in South Africa, and there still are, but that you chose
Well,
specifically Henia.
Because they were first in Bloemfontein, the exhibition, and I spoke there, and Mara decided I must go to Joburg as well for the exhibition. It was Anne Frank exhibition. You remember the mayor fell asleep?
And also, I was telling Liz that you were not in Cape Town yet. You were still living in Bloemfontein.
Yeah.
But when Stephen Smith came to help us prepare and do the interviews for
Yeah.
the program, the film in our exhibition, you came down. We brought you down from Bloemfontein for a couple
Yes,
of days.
that's right.
right. And what year did you come to Cape Town finally?
I can't remember. When did you open the...
In 1999, but you were not here for the opening. A few years after, I think.
It was after or before?
No, it was after.
After.
You were not there
so
for the
I
opening.
can't
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what-
yes, right, yeah. But I felt, it was supposed to be only Cape Townians, and I didn't know you were coming down yet, but I reckoned you had 2 sons here, so that made you an honorary Cape Townian, so that's why we included
It was
you.
a wonderful interview. There was also one with Steven Spielberg Spielberg, but he didn't come himself. He sent a delegation with a film, and they spent 2 or 3 days with me, but she wasn't a good interviewer.
And I was also telling Les, and I'm sorry I didn't tell him before, about the documentary film that
Lisa did, and it's all over the world now.
I think it's on YouTube. Yes, yeah.
And Henia, did you used to speak a lot when you were in Bloemfontein about?
Yes, I went to every school, and Richard came with that lady that was in charge of education before. Marlene came
Silbert,
to
yeah.
Bloemfontein with Richard, and we went to see the school teachers, the black school teachers, and then we went somewhere else, and you brought a film, and Richard came down by himself, and there was a film about shoes. Do you remember that film?
No, I don't. Yeah, right?
You don't?
No.
That was a film about. Let's have some tea. I'm very, very.
Right.
But-
Okay. Yeah. Thirsty.
Bryer, can I just ask, when you asked Henia when you actually helped her to come to Cape Town?
No, I didn't help her to come to Cape. You were to live or to live?
To live.
No, I had
two
nothing to do with
sons
that.
here.
She got 2 sons.
But
here.
you encouraged maybe a bit.
No, not at all.
But
Not guilty on that score.
okay, but when Henia was here in Cape Town, did she speak often at the centre, the Holocaust Centre?
Yes, at the beginning you used to speak quite often. Yes,
I used to go out with Richard to school, to the Jewish school, to one in the north, one in the south,
Yes.
but not much. You see, I can't see now, so it's very difficult to speak without any clues but I did it. In Bloemfontein, I did a lot.
And Henia, can I ask you, as a very big favour, what message do you impart to the next generations and to your own children and
What
grandchildren?
message? What message can I make? That the whole world is such a mess at the moment. When I spoke before, I said in the film too, I hope it will never happen again. Such a terrible tragedy that never happened in history, never. They were fighting, they were killing each other, but at least they could defend themselves. But this was just incredible. I love ancient history, as cruel as they were. They didn't apply such methods of tortures. They just, to think it up was something incredible. So the message is, I hoped that will never happen again, but it's happening all over. So what can you do?
And Henia, when you went to Israel,
Yeah,
you were happy when you were in Israel?
very happy. I wanted to go back to Israel, but my husband didn't want to go back. He says his Hebrew is not good enough and he's not been able. So I said, I'll only come to South Africa with you for 1 year to meet your family, and I'm coming back home because my mother survived and my younger brother survived as well, and they were both in Israel. And my mother's whole family was in Israel. All her parents, my grandfather, my grandmother, and she had her sisters and her brothers, some of them. So it was, and here I'm all alone, and I arrived without a word of English. And without a training, what am I going to do? I had a wonderful position in Israel, and I started to learn Hebrew in Poland. I had a wonderful, wonderful childhood in Poland. We were well off, we had everything, nothing that was missing. On the contrary, over the top. Please have
Thank you
some
so
cake.
much.
Yeah, right.
I'm so grateful to you. Thank you so much.
I can tell you where I was and which places, but to tell you every place, that will be too much.
Where is the Mrs. Brier's
Maya, all the places I was incarcerated. First of all, when the ghetto was closed, you had to have a job, because if you didn't work, then you go to one place. And I was already about 16, I think, and we had to find a job for me. So there was a Jewish rat, and they supplied the workers to the Germans. And there was a place in a forced labor. That's not a concentration camp yet, but it was, we were sleeping there and we were sewing. It was a place not far from Bloemfontein, and I don't know what the place was called, but it was near Bloemfontein.
You mean Radom?
Near Radom,
Yeah.
Bloemfontein and
Radom.
Radom get mixed up.
In Poland.
So anyway, there was a big, like a factory, not a factory, but a working shop for the Germans, for the Nazis. We were sewing. We were sewing, repairing underwear of the soldiers. That was obviously cleaned and everything. And there were all sorts of workers there. They were working, sewing, they were making shoes, they were sewing uniforms, and we slept there, and we worked the whole time. I was a year there. I learned to sew there. I didn't know how to sew. I didn't have a clue. I was a young girl and I didn't see a sewing machine. So a day before I went to this place, I must tell you that because that was interesting. I didn't have a clue how to sew, and I volunteered for this sewing place. And it was an Arbeitlager, but they gave us food. It wasn't plenty, but it was. So a night before, my mother had a friend there in the ghetto. It was from the ghetto, and she had a hand sewing machine with a handle and with a treadle. And I didn't know how to even put the needle where the thread goes and what to do. So I learned how to work this old-fashioned machine. The next morning I present myself at this place of work, and they take me. I come, and the woman that was in charge takes me to this machine. Did I tell you this story?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
She brings me before an industrial, fully electric machine, which I never saw in my life, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I thought this is the end. But then I thought about the woman that was in charge, and I went to ask her that I didn't see a machine like that, and would he please show me how to use it, because I can sew, but I don't know this machine. So one day she showed me how to use the machine. And about 3 months later, the Meister, the boss of this whole place, held up one of the garments that I made, and he showed all the other sewers. This is what it should look like.
Wow.
It was so fun. Okay, from there I came back to the ghetto, and the first was Majdanek, the first camp. We went long there, we were about 6 weeks, and we got to Plaszow. Plaszow is next to Krakow, and I had a lucky chance there because I was chosen to be the servant to the SS women. They lived in a house outside the camp, and house of a person, a Polish person. It was a very primitive, like a small, very small place, and I was in charge in this, had to clean. So they bring me to this place, and there is a big, huge dish with dirty dishes, no water, no soap, nothing to do it with. So I stand and I cry. That was my only. And from the next door, there was an old Ukrainian man. She was she was working for a man SS. So he says, well, why are you crying? I said, look at these dishes. There are about 100 dishes. And I don't know with what to clean it. There's not even water. So he says, I'll show you. And there was a well, and you had to take the water from the well with a bucket. And he took the water for me, and he threw it over all the dishes. And I said, but they told me to wash the carpets as well. How do I do that? So he says, come, I'll show you. He took a bucket of water, he threw it over the carpets, and he says, they won't know the difference.
Gee.
And so I started to work for them. And I worked most of the time for the SS women. They were not there, and they were working on the field. Only the one that was in charge was on the spot with me, and she gave me some food every now and then. So the others saw it once, and they said, why did you give her food? So she says to them, she was a middle-aged woman. She had a daughter my age. And she says to them, can't you see she's not a Jew? She's a Mischling. You know what a Mischling is? A mixed race. So I can give her some food. She's not Jewish. So if that's...
Your blonde hair. It was your blonde hair.
And it wasn't shaved. I was the only one that they didn't shave.
Really?
The head. So from Plaszow we came to Auschwitz. It was Erev Yom Kippur, and we decided we're going to fast. We were fasting anyway, so they kept the food for 2 days. The little rations that we got. So that was Auschwitz. And Auschwitz, it was one, I was not in Birkenau. There were 2 camps in Auschwitz. The one with the gate, Arbeit macht frei, was the showpiece. So they didn't treat us any better, and they didn't feed us any better, but it was very clean there, because the various organizations from overseas went to check, and they were not only Jews, but there was a separate camp for other races, and everybody had a triangle, different color. So there were no Jews. They used to get parcels from the Red Cross, not the Jews, the other races. There were Poles, they didn't, they weren't there. They were German, some Germans, priests, and they had the priests had a violet triangle. The political prisoners had a red triangle. The Jews had a yellow triangle, and there was one more. The priests a violet, and I can't remember. No, there weren't any more. So every race had a different color, so that they can treat them specially. And then from Auschwitz, and Auschwitz we were just carrying, they were getting rid of the crematoriums, they were knocking them down. So we were walking with the stones all over the place, from one place to the other. And we were there from like October till January. And
When did you get your number on your arm?
in Auschwitz,
Yeah.
in Auschwitz, you first go get undressed and get the number, and then I told you the story with the clothes. Everybody knows it, and I don't know it also. I'll tell you when I finish. And then from Auschwitz, I walked with a death march for 3 days to Wrocław. In German, it's Breslau. And from there, I won't even describe to you the death march. And then from there, we went in these open wagons now, of kettle trucks. They were full. And from there, they took us to the other side of Germany, to Bergen-Belsen, which is on the other side of Germany. And there we were liberated by the English. But I left there because my friend died and I was sick. In Bergen-Belsen, I had the typhus. There was no food. There was total disorder. They were losing the war. It was 1945. But they decided that they have got to kill every single Jew before the end of the war. So Bergen-Belsen was a living nightmare. No food, no water to wash, no nothing. And it was typhus. Everybody was sick. So then we were liberated by the English. So they isolated us because there was typhus. So they didn't come in, but they sent food. So they sent food, rations for the army, and that wasn't food for starving people. So a lot of people died in Bergen-Belsen after the liberation because they couldn't take the food. And that was the story of the camps. But somebody came from Radom, those who were liberated in the region there, and the other countries, came to the German town of nearby Hitler's main office, and the there was a town in Germany, it escapes me now. I didn't stay longer there, and my uncle from Paris sent a car with Polish soldiers to take us to him, to Paris, and I stayed with him for 2 years, and only in 1946 we went to Israel. And in Israel, I was in the army. I was very happy. I was in the camp on Nof Ahar, I think. It was a camp of Heil Avir, but there was no Heil Avir. It was the first day of the war where I got the summons to come to army.
And did you go as a legal immigrant to Israel?
I was there already from 1946.
But when you went in 46, it
Yeah.
was as a, you had papers to go?
I've got
Oh, you
my
showed the
papers.
papers, you showed the
you.
papers, yeah.
I showed you. And I got a job, and my mother got a job, and my brother, younger brother, had to study because he missed his education altogether. Not altogether, but he didn't matriculate even. So the times were hard, but I was very happy. I had friends, and I marched in the first Independence Parade in the army, and I was so proud and so happy. I didn't want to stay here.
And Henia, can I just ask, when you were reunited with your family that survived,
Only my mother and my younger brothers.
where did you reunite?
Where did I? In Germany. Somebody brought her. What was it? Not Frank. Next to Frankfurt. There, another town, a beautiful town. You know, some things just disappear and then they come back. I'll tell you in a minute. But I lived in Paris for until I could go to Israel.
What language did you speak in France? Were you still Yiddish or Polish?
I learned French. I went
French
to
too.
school.
Yeah, really, yeah. There's another question I want to ask. I remember hearing you describe you were sorting clothes or shoes. Where were you sorting the shoes? Was that?
Oh, that was the first day in Auschwitz. They brought us to work, and they always divided us by 10. 10, 10, 10. So they took 10 young girls, and they brought us to a room, and in the room was a mountain of different shoes. It's still there in Auschwitz. You can still see it. It was high up to the ceiling, mixed empty shoes, men's shoes, children's shoes, ladies' shoes, everything together mixed up. And the Nazi was mad. He was walking around with a stick and hitting everybody. We must pair them together, the shoes. And it was absolutely impossible. All together loose, just thrown there. So one of the girls said, and he was running around and hitting everybody and screaming and shouting, start, start, start. So she says, let's sing. We can't do this. Let's sing. So we started to sing Joseph Schmidt. There was a song that we knew. It was very famous before the war. Did I tell you this story?
No.
No. Das ist der schönste Tag in meinem Leben.
Yes.
It was a song that he sang. He had a lovely tenor, and it went like that. Das ist der schönste Tag in meinem Leben. And we knew the words and we knew the song. And he, like, getting struck or something. He stopped shouting, he stopped screaming, and we went out.
Yeah.
It was a funny idea.
Yes, yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
I told you about the. Did you find what you were looking for? There was this mountain of shoes, and the Nazi was screaming at us, we must put them together. Pairs of pairs. It was impossible. We couldn't do it. So one of the girls said, let's sing. And before the war was a famous singer. His name was Joseph Schmidt. And he was a lovely tenor, and we knew a song of his, so he started to sing. And the song, the words of the song were, Das ist der schönste Tag in meinem Leben. You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he stood like he was struck that in a situation like that we sing. But he stopped screaming and he stopped hitting everybody, and we were saved from this job.
Oh.
That was the first day in Auschwitz, and this the shoes are still there.
Yeah, I saw them. Yeah.
You saw
yes,
them?
Yeah, when we went to Auschwitz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Henia, do you still have the tattoo?
Yes, I wouldn't let them take it off. There it is.
You know the story about Ella's tattoo? Ella's tattoo, Ella Blumenthal's tattoo. You know the story?
No.
So, when we first started to ask her about her experiences, and we did that display in the seminar room, no, it was just to include her in the film. She never mentioned anything about her number because her husband had insisted when they first got married for her to have the tattoo removed. So she went to, there's a well-known...
It was
Penn.
Dr. Penn.
Yeah,
Well, he
Penn.
wanted
Right,
to
yeah.
take it off.
Right, yeah. So and he
said,
was doing it for nothing. So she had it taken off, so she didn't have a number. When we were developing that sort of panel recording her story, she phoned me up one day. She said, "You've got to come. I found amongst my papers, when you have plastic surgery, you always get a
get a
photograph of a
certificate.
before and after. If you have your nose done or whatever, they take a photograph." And there she found amongst her papers the photograph they took in the doctor's rooms of her arm with her number.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
She was also in Bergen-Belsen,
Yes.
but she was lucky there. She was working in the kitchen,
Yeah.
so she didn't starve.
Yeah.
And Henia, can I ask, when you were reunited with your mother and your it was your brother as well?
My brother was only when we came to Israel. He was taken to Israel with the youngsters by this American woman from Witzel,
Oh, yes.
Henrietta
Henrietta
Scholz.
Yeah.
And Stuttgart was the town when
Stuttgart.
after the war. All the people from Radom congregating in Stuttgart. They made one part of street empty, and we got accommodation there, and it was the American zone, because the English were not very, well, they were all, I suppose, in dire, but still fighting the other side of the Pacific with the Americans, and it wasn't nice with the English. So somebody came to fetch me, and I went to Stuttgart to meet my mother, and she came from Poland. And the funny thing, the very funny thing is my father had a building in Poland, in Radom. We were very well off. He had a shoe factory. And he had a building, not a flat and not a house. Nobody lives in Europe in houses. They live in apartments. So my father had a house, it was before the war it was a school for music. It was part of university, music. And during the Soviet occupation, they converted it into flats. But we didn't hear, we had a lawyer there, but we didn't hear, and the Russians converted it, I suppose, into flats. I think 20 flats or something, or 26. And my mother went to Radom first from Auschwitz. She went to Radom, and she went to the magistrate, and she took the papers of that building with her. She took copies of them, and she took them with to wherever she was, and she kept it in a little place next to her bed, but she never mentioned it to when 10 or 15 years ago. So when the wall was broken and you could go to Poland, I went to Poland and I had a look at the building. I knew the address, and I've got a picture of it too. And Ellen found the papers in her drawer next to her bed.
Oh.
They were lying like that for years and years.
Yes, so when was this? Gosh.
No, we sold
Yeah.
it. We sold it. We sold it. We didn't get the value of it. If we kept it, we would have gotten a lot more. A lot more. But it was so funny. She didn't think he'll ever do anything of it. But when I was in Poland, I found a lawyer there, and the boys got Polish citizenship.
Your boys have got Polish citizenship.
And their children.
Really? Is that
Was
so?
it difficult to go back to Poland?
I never ever.
But when you went back to visit, was it difficult to?
I didn't. My mother did.
Oh, your mother
I
did.
was in Stuttgart when I met. She came to me.
And you've never been back to Poland?
I was.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
Yes, I went to Poland and I went by myself everywhere. I speak fluent Polish.
Was it difficult to go back?
It was, for me, like a goodbye.
Closing the circle.
Yeah, I went even to the it's a closure. I knew I won't go there again, and my kids didn't want to go. I begged them to come with me, and I stayed there.
So did they go with you in the end?
Mm-hmm.
Did they go?
No, they never went.
Really?
They will go when I'm not here anymore, I suppose. But it's a pity.
In many,
because
many years. And that was very courageous that you went.
I had to go. I just had to go to all the places. To the school I went, and I was interviewed on the Polish radio, national radio, because I could speak Polish. And no, I had to go. My cousins from Israel hired a small bus, and they were coming, I think 5 or 6 of them, and I was visiting my brother in Switzerland, and they found me there, and they said, "You want to join us? We're going to Poland." They were all from Poland, but they left to Israel when they were very young. So I said, "Yes, I'll meet you there. I'll meet you in Warsaw." And they came with a bus, and I met them, and we went to all the places where I was, all the camps, and we went to, where else? I just didn't want to go to Treblinka. I think they went, and I stayed on in Poland, and I had a woman driver, and we went to different places. And I went to to the apartment where we lived. So my cousins stayed downstairs because there was a time that they all, in Israel, they were anti-Polish. I don't know why. Because the Poles were treated like the Jews. They were also shot, and they rebelled at least. They were the only one that had a resistance, and they were shot. If any of the Polish people hid a Jew, if they found out, and they shot the Polish people immediately together with the...
Yeah.
And in Washington, were you there in this museum? There's a big thing written on the wall there, like a picture. It says of all the countries, most Jews that were saved were in Poland, are Polish.
Is that so?
And lots of Poles died by
Yeah,
hiding
right.
them.
Yes, yeah.
So, and here they've got a terrible reputation in South Africa. I don't know how it is now.
In Israel, what do they think about
In
the
Israel,
Poles?
because of the new law that they did, so there are issues, but it's true. A lot of Polish. When we were in Poland, we actually went to a museum of Poles that had sacrificed. There's the Ulmer family, where there were 7 children where the parents were shot. They were killed.
They were killed because they were hiding Jews in different places. And but the majority of the Jews were in Poland before the war.
Right, yeah. 3 million? Yeah.
They're 10% of the whole population.
Yeah.
And I had a wonderful childhood in Poland.
They have a wonderful museum now in Warsaw. Fantastic.
I've been there, Poland.
Yeah,
It's
But there's not much left of Warsaw after the war.
they've rebuilt, but you're right. A
I
lot
was
is.
in Warsaw too. After the war, I stayed in a lovely hotel there, and we traveled everywhere. And Warsaw was so bombed, so destroyed, that they only rebuilt facades of the buildings, and the backs are all new buildings. My granddaughter asked me if I could remember my address. I said yes. I give her the address, and she said there's nothing there. Now there's a supermarket. It was a nice street next to the theater, and it was a big statue in front of it.
And Henia, did you used to speak to your children about the war?
Not when they were children.
When they were older.
When they were older, all my pupils, I showed them the films, the big ones, and I was telling them, "You're so lucky. I've got. I can tell you about the Holocaust, and I can tell you about Israel, because I was there." Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have some more tea?
Yes,
I
but
just
do
wanna-
you want some more tea?
I just want to thank you so
coffee?
much. How am I going to do this?
What is this?
I just want to thank you both.
So we'll put
I'm just going to.
what you're trying to do.
Normally I just. I'll just be a minute.
Do you want me to hold it for you? Okay, right.
Okay, so Henia and Myra, I'm so grateful to you both, really, Myra, for you making this incredible introduction.
This is my angel.
Myra, you really are. You
Yeah,
are
well,
incredible. And Henia, you are
A lifeline.
But I tell you, Henia, I mean, I wasn't sure whether I said to Les, I don't know if you would want to, feel like it, and you have been
What do you mean
fantastic,
like it?
wonderful, right.
It's my lifeline.
No.
But Henia, thank you so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. It's been such an honor and a privilege, really.
No, I don't mind.
And especially
People
coming to
ask.
Cape Town just to meet you has been so worth it.
No,
That you
that's
inspiration.
very nice.
Henia, you are amazing, really, and you should just have mazel and bracha and just I'd maybe stream to 120 in good health. And really,
Oh.
Henia, we're so grateful to you. We really are.
Yeah.
And Myra, that you chose Henia out of everybody, I can really understand why.
Mara
Because
is
you are
amazing.
unique. Henia, you really are. You're an inspiration to us all. And
She's
we
amazing. What's happening in the Holocaust?
I'll tell you another time.